So for me, my safety checks, if I'm like my minimum is the emergency shut off switch, right? So if it's a push button or an audible alarm, I'm checking that that works. And I'm visually inspecting the drain covers with either, if it's a shallow pool, I can just kind of look down in the water. If it's a deeper pool, I might literally grab some goggles and just put my face in the water to look down, like a scuba type mask. I may also use a reaching stick and like prod it to make sure that it's structurally intact. Or you might say, we have instructors getting in the water at 9 a.m. Let's give Susie, she has to get in at 8:50. She gets paid an extra quarter of an hour and she's going to go check the drain covers under the supervision of the lifeguard. How you parse it out is completely up to you. I would also say with documents, you'll see this coming up in the sample that I show you, as much as is possible, parse things out into micro tasks like check anti-entrapment is too broad, right? Lifeguards or swim instructors, if they have 5 minutes, if you split it into test switch, check drains, poke drains, that might seem redundant to have three different tasks, but the ability to document the same way you guys document swimming skills, he can put his mouth in and his nose, but he can't do a full bob. You want to show that progressive completion. Same thing with task duties when you have lots of people floating around. Hey, I need you to do 2 lines on today's checklist. Small tasks, much easier to get done to completion than a bigger task that's vague. Next thing I'm doing is I'm checking my emergency supplies. At this stage, it is a quick visual check, and then I'm going to get into more of a detailed check. So I have a first aid kit, it's where it should be. I have the AED, it's where it should be. I have either my fanny pack or I see that they're stocked and ready to go. Or from my public pool background, all of the fanny packs got wet last night because there was a major emergency. There are no fanny packs ready to go. They all have to be rebuilt. I want to know that right away. Evacuation kit. So I don't know if you guys have an evacuation kit, but having been at a pool with 2 fires in the middle of February, we had a kit with blankets, slippers, hats, gloves, a key to the emergency building, fire blankets, right? What are we going to do if there's an emergency? We have a kit and it's in a big duffel bag and we can grab it and we can go. Emergency telephone, you probably checked it before, but on the off chance that you have different locations or somewhere else to check, you can do that now. And then communication equipment is present and charging on the cradle or whatever that looks like. It hasn't disappeared. Other safety items I'm checking, and again, I'm doing a quick walk around. I'm not necessarily addressing each of these, but I'm noting emergency exits, right? I can open the doors like they were latched. They are opened easily, right? I can just touch the push bar. I don't have to jiggle something or unlock something, and that there is clearance. So nobody stuck their knapsack in front of the door or outside the door. There's no skateboard, there's no garbage, right? It's easy to actually leave the building. And in winter, this is a big one you've probably experienced. Nobody pushed any snow in front of the door, right? There's actual egress. Other safety, I'm quickly visually checking. I'm not necessarily opening up the cabinet with PPE, but I'm able to quickly find what I need for containment, right? Do you have a spill kit? Do you have a bag with chemicals and pads for if there's a major chemical leak? Or what will you do if chemical ends up somewhere it shouldn't? Personal protective equipment, right? It's easy to find either in individual staff cubbies or lockers or cabinets, or there's cleaning protocols for shared equipment. Eyewash station and shower. These are ones that from direct personal experience with staff injuries, I'm checking them daily as opposed to like once a month when they're getting all rusty and crusty, right? The number of people I know who have saved their eyesight by sticking their eyes in an eye wash station for 30 minutes is based on them working properly at the right temperature. I know, Lisa, we talked about these. They're not they're expensive, but making sure that that investment is protected as opposed to like just getting old. Safety data sheets, like the binders there, you're not checking each page right now. And then whatever staff safety equipment you have in place for COVID. right? So whatever shields, masks, whatever that looks like, the cleaned equipment, the dirty equipment, that you have something happening for that. For me, I was at the University of Toronto when we had a gentleman die because, one opinion, we couldn't get the pads on his chest. He was very hairy. So I will never forget that. And I am overkill when it comes to razors. So my daily check for myself, we were in a high traffic area between Harvard and Spadina, right? You're responding to like people passing out on the sidewalks, people passing out in the kinesiology lab, people breaking their neck on the parallel beam or the parallel bars in the gymnastics room, right? Like we were a very large facility. So my AED check is going to be more comprehensive. I'm going to check the light that it is on. I do this in real life anyway. I've been to many locations, libraries, gyms where the light is not on. Like nobody has checked the batteries in a while. So I always check the AED light or the check mark. If you have a case that goes off, right, open the door, make sure the sound or the light goes off. Extra pads in the building, if not on the in the kit, right? So maybe you have a kit, maybe you have a bag, maybe you have whatever that setup is, but extra pads in the building. Um, Medical razor. So a medical razor is it often comes with the AED. It's a little piece of cardboard with like a slit and a piece of metal. And so the way the medical razor works is you're basically quickly raising and the hair goes through the space as opposed to a traditional razor that will be clogged very easily. Like you'd have to shave, rinse, shave, rinse. And so you can buy a sleeve of medical razors like 20 for 20 bucks. It's very easy. And so based on that one experience for myself personally, we've always stocked extra razors. The medical ones do not have shields. So if you are not comfortable with your staff using that in emergency, then you can go with multiple razors. And we've actually found that the cheap, like women's disposable razors that are a single blade in an emergency work better, in my opinion, than like the mock whatever with 4 blades that requires rinsing, right? Because the hair gets caught between the blades. So having a bag of cheap disposable razors or having and extra cartridges if you're going with the mock whatever multi-blade route, or and having clippers and batteries, right? So in the aftermath of that one particular incident, they had used the extra pads to try and rip some hair off. It didn't work. There was one disposable razor. It didn't work. There's no guarantee that would have saved him. We were told he was very dead, like it would have been too late to get heart activity. But that's something that's never left me because he was quite hairy and you can't get pad contact if there's like half a centimeter of hair. Sham towel, or like if you don't want to have sham towels, you can have like the folding sterile. You can have the sterile kind of like napkin foldy things, something to move some water or deal with like vomit or just things that could be in the way. Medical scissors, so like the angled scissors to cut shirts, and then pocket mask and gloves. I like to duplicate the pocket mask and gloves, all of this separate from the first aid kit because you may need multiple staging areas. This is an example of a template that you could use for your larger first aid kit inventory. So somebody should be looking at your first aid supplies throughout the month. There is going to be Ontario like workplace regulation as to what is the minimum equipment. It's also covered in your Ontario pool standards. You likely have more than that. You likely have, a bag or a box or a first aid station. Obviously, lots of kids with cut fingers and faces and nosebleeds, but ensuring that you have what you actually need by law as well as what is actually practical, right? So whether you're staging band-aids throughout the building or whether you're purchasing, like I started purchasing hair elastics several pools ago and people laughed at me, but the number of times that you start handing out hair elastics because kids have hair in their face, it's just a lot easier to have hair elastics in addition to first aid supplies and feminine products or whatever that looks like. And just to go back for a second, this would be an area where you could assign this task to like any Thursday in January. So rather than leaving it to the end of the month and having all of these tasks at the beginning or the end of the month, if you assign it every Thursday and then there's a note that says only needs to be done once in the month of January, they can flip back to the previous only 3 Thursdays and see, "Oh, nobody did it. I'm gonna do it today." Or parceling it out, like, "Please check all the bandages." And then in a different task, "Please check all of the equipment," right? There's different ways you can parse it out.